I analyze patterns for a living. Stock fluctuations, market trends, the way numbers tell stories when humans think they're being clever. My colleagues at Brennan and Associates call me methodical. My wife calls me boring. Both are probably right. Jessie's always been the opposite, all flash and ambition, the kind of woman who commands a room just by walking into it. VP at Meridian Capital, the aggressive investment firm downtown. She climbs corporate ladders while I crunch data in my quiet corner office, and for 8 years, that dynamic worked. I was the steady anchor to her brilliant flame. But flames burn everything eventually, including the hands that feed them. The shift started 3 months ago. Subtle at first. Working late became working later. Quick kisses became distracted pecks. Conversations became transaction reports. She'd come home energized from her conferences, but too tired for us. Her phone, once casually tossed on counters, now lived face down in her purse. "How was your day?" I'd ask over dinner. "Fine. Busy. You know how it is." Her fork would scrape against the plate, eyes focused anywhere but on me. I know how it is. I also know when someone's hiding something. Last Tuesday, while she showered, I watched her phone buzz against the nightstand. The preview lit up before disappearing. "Still thinking about you in that dress." My chest tightened, but my mind sharpened. This wasn't heartbreak. Not yet. This was data collection, evidence gathering. The same methodical process I used to dissect earnings reports, applied to dissecting my marriage. She emerged from the bathroom, towel wrapped around her like armor. "Work again?" I nodded toward her phone. "Always is." She grabbed the device, checked the message, deleted it. Her fingers moved too quickly, too practiced. I smiled and returned to my book. Let her think I was too quiet to notice, too passive to care, too weak to act. That was her first mistake. The patterns emerged over the following weeks like a stock chart trending downward. New passwords, deleted browser histories, weekend team-building events that required overnight stays. She'd return from these trips glowing, relaxed, speaking in the past tense about experiences I wasn't part of. "The restaurant was incredible," she'd say, unpacking clothes that smelled like expensive cologne. "You would have loved it." But I was never invited, never even mentioned. I started keeping notes, times, dates, behavioral changes, the way she'd suddenly care about her appearance before certain meetings, how she'd check her reflection in every surface when Miles Carter's name appeared in conversation. Miles, her boss, the golden boy with the corner office and the reputation for closing deals and opening marriages. "We should get dinner with Miles and his wife sometime," I suggested one evening. Jessie's wine glass paused halfway to her lips. "He's really busy with the merger. Maybe after things settle down." But Miles wasn't married. I'd checked. Recently divorced, according to the business journals. Another data point in my growing spreadsheet of lies. She thought I was oblivious. The quiet husband who paid bills and asked no questions. Who'd accept whatever scraps of attention she offered because I was grateful just to be married to someone like her. She was wrong about a lot of things, but she was especially wrong about that. I watched her scroll through messages one night, her face lit by the blue glow of deception. The way her lips curved into smiles I hadn't seen in months. How her breathing changed when certain names appeared on screen. "I'm going to bed," I announced, closing my laptop. She didn't look up. "I'll be up in a few minutes." Those few minutes stretched into an hour, then 2. I lay in our bed, listening to her muffled laughter from downstairs, building a fortress of rage so precise and cold it could have been carved from ice. When she finally slipped under the covers, I pretended to sleep. Her body was warm against mine, but it felt like embracing a stranger, or worse, embracing someone who was already embracing someone else. In the morning, I made coffee for 2 and watched her get ready for another day of lies. She kissed my cheek before leaving, a reflexive gesture that meant nothing. "Love you," she called over her shoulder. "Love you too," I replied. We were both lying now, but only one of us knew it. Guilt makes people defensive. Jessie's started manifesting as righteous indignation, as if I were somehow failing her by existing in the same space as her secrets. She'd snap at me for loading the dishwasher wrong, criticize my weekend clothes, act like my presence was an inconvenience she had to navigate around. You never want to go anywhere, she complained one Saturday morning. All you do is work and read. Where would you like to go? I asked. That's not the point, Daniel. The point is you never suggest anything. You just exist. I nodded and returned to my newspaper. Let her build her case. Every accusation was another brick in the foundation of her justification. The conversation came on a Thursday night. She'd opened a bottle of wine, expensive stuff she'd bought for herself, and settled across from me with the look of someone preparing for surgery. We should talk, she began, about what love really means in a modern world. I closed my book and gave her my full attention. This was the performance I'd been waiting for. People change, Daniel. We've both changed. What worked for us 5 years ago doesn't necessarily work now. She paused, waiting for me to interrupt, to argue, to beg. When I remained silent, she continued. I've been thinking about us, about relationships in general, the whole concept of ownership, of possessing another person. It's so archaic, so limiting. Another pause, another invitation for me to react. I think we need to be honest about what we both want, what we both need. And maybe what we need isn't just each other anymore. She was building toward something. I could see it in the way she measured her words, testing each phrase for maximum impact while maintaining plausible deniability. Open relationships are becoming more common, she said. More accepted. People are realizing that love doesn't have to be about restriction. It can be about freedom, about growth. Growth, I repeated. Exactly. We can love each other and still explore other connections, other experiences. It doesn't have to threaten what we have. It could strengthen it. I leaned back in my chair, processing this. Not the content. I'd known this speech was coming for weeks. But the delivery. The careful way she'd practiced these talking points, probably with Miles, maybe even with other people. Friends who'd nod sagely and tell her how brave she was being. This isn't about you, she continued. It's about me. About finding myself again. About not feeling trapped by decisions I made when I was younger. Trapped. There was the real truth, buried under layers of New Age relationship philosophy. Have you been thinking about this for long? I asked. A while, yes. I didn't know how to bring it up. I know you're more traditional in your thinking. Traditional. Like monogamy was some quaint custom I clung to out of stubbornness. And you think this would work? For both of us? I think it could. If we're both mature about it. If we communicate openly. She was so earnest, so convinced of her own enlightenment. The woman who'd been sneaking around for months, deleting texts and lying about work trips, wanted to lecture me about open communication. Let me think about it, I said. Relief flooded her face. She'd expected resistance, anger, threats. Instead, I was giving her exactly what she wanted, permission to continue what she was already doing, but with a clear conscience. Really? You're not upset? I want you to be happy, Jess. I always have. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Her touch felt cold. I love you for saying that. I love that you're willing to consider this. Love. She kept using that word, but it had become hollow. A social courtesy, like saying please and thank you, expected but meaningless. We'll figure it out, I said. That night, she made love to me with an enthusiasm I hadn't felt in months, probably working through her guilt, or maybe celebrating her victory. Either way, it felt like a goodbye. Afterward, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and refined my plans. She thought this was the reveal. That I'd react, beg, argue, make this messy and emotional. She didn't know I was 3 moves ahead. She didn't know anything at all. Modern infidelity leaves digital fingerprints everywhere. Cloud backups, synchronized devices, location services, every lie documented in metadata for anyone methodical enough to look. Jessie was brilliant with market analysis, but careless with operational security. Her laptop shared our home network. Same Wi-Fi, same router logs, same automated backup systems she'd never bothered to configure properly. While she showered Monday morning, I cloned her phone using the backup software I'd quietly installed weeks earlier. Every text, every call, every photo, all of it flowing through servers she didn't know existed. The mic was simpler, a small recording device, no bigger than a quarter, positioned behind the kitchen island where she liked to take her private calls. Audio quality wasn't perfect, but clear enough for my purposes. What I found exceeded my worst expectations. 6 weeks of escalating conversations with Miles Carter. Professional at first, then personal, then explicit. Weekend trips disguised as conferences, hotels booked under his corporate account, plans extending far beyond their physical affair. "Danny's so passive," she'd told Miles during one recorded call. "He'll probably just accept whatever I tell him. He always does." Another conversation, 3 weeks later. "We should start moving assets before I file." He's too trusting to notice. They weren't just betraying me, they were planning to rob me, converting joint investments into accounts I couldn't access, timing my financial destruction with my emotional one. But Miles had given me something more valuable than heartbreak. He'd given me access to his trading strategies, his insider information, his complete financial profile. A man careless enough to discuss securities fraud with my wife over an unsecured phone line. I researched his background. Harvard MBA, 10 years at Goldman, reputation for aggressive plays and bigger risks. He followed 3 specific trading forums religiously, especially one focused on emerging biotech stocks. His ego demanded he be first on every trend, even when the data was questionable. Especially when the data was questionable. I created several false identities across his favorite forums. Began posting detailed analyses of a fictional pharmaceutical startup, complete with fabricated clinical trial data and FDA approval timelines. Made it look like insider information, the kind only someone with connections would know. Miles bit within 48 hours, started asking questions, probing for more details. I fed him exactly what his ego needed, exclusive access to the next big thing in biotech innovation. While he was chasing phantom profits, I opened offshore accounts through shell companies, using VPNs and proxy servers to mask my digital footprints. Started making small trades based on actual intelligence I'd gathered from his conversations with Jessie. The irony was perfect, using his own insider information against him while he chased my manufactured lies. The money wasn't the goal. It was insurance. Proof of their financial crimes and seed capital for my own future. Every dollar I earned was another nail in their professional coffins. "He's getting suspicious," Jessie told Miles during a call last Thursday. "About what?" "I don't know. He's been different. Quieter than usual." "Danny's always quiet. That's his whole thing." "This is different. He asked about my schedule, about where I've been traveling. So tell him about the Brennan account. Make something up." "I already did. But he had this look. You're paranoid. The guy can barely order coffee without apologizing. He's not going to cause problems." They were wrong about that too. But I let them believe their own fiction. Let them think I was the same weak man they'd been manipulating for months. Meanwhile, I documented everything. Screenshots, recordings, financial records. Built a case so comprehensive that even the most incompetent lawyer couldn't lose it. Jessie came home that night carrying Chinese takeout and guilt. She'd been especially affectionate lately, overcompensating for her betrayal with theatrical displays of devotion. "How was your day?" she asked, kissing my cheek. "Productive," I said. "Very productive." She had no idea how productive it had been. Margaret Hastings was exactly the kind of divorce attorney Jesse would hate. Sharp, ruthless, and completely unimpressed by corporate titles. Her downtown office felt like a war room, all polished steel and calculated aggression. "You've been thorough," she said, reviewing my documentation. "Almost obsessively so. I'm good with details. These recordings, they're legal in Illinois, one-party consent state. The financial evidence is solid. The adultery case is airtight." She leaned back in her chair. "What exactly do you want from this?" "Everything. The house, the assets, her reputation. I want her to lose everything she thought she was stealing from me." "That's achievable, especially with the domestic violence component you mentioned." "The domestic violence component. The final piece of my strategy, the one that required the most careful orchestration." Jessie had always been quick to anger, especially when things didn't go according to her plans. I needed her to lose control at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right place. "The security system upgrade is essential," Margaret continued. "Audio and video, motion-activated cloud backup. If she lays a hand on you, we'll have everything we need." The technician arrived the next afternoon while Jessie was at work. Professional-grade cameras and microphones, disguised as standard home security equipment. Motion sensors throughout the house, panic buttons in every room. Everything legal, everything admissible, everything designed to capture the moment Jessie revealed her true nature. She noticed the upgrade when she came home. "New security system?" she asked, eyeing the cameras. "Insurance discount?" I explained. "The company required it after that break-in on Maple Street." She nodded, distracted by her phone. Another message from Miles, probably. Another lie to manage. I'd also visited HR at Meridian Capital. Not directly, that would have been too obvious. But corporate whistleblower policies made anonymous reporting remarkably simple. A few photos of their public displays of affection, some carefully edited audio files, timestamps correlating their travel schedules. Nothing illegal, nothing actionable yet. Just enough to make the compliance department nervous. The financial preparations took longer. Joint accounts couldn't be emptied without triggering alerts, but they could be legally protected. I moved everything into instruments that required both signatures to liquidate. CDs, trust funds, investment accounts with cooling-off periods. Jessie's name was still on them, but she couldn't access them without my consent. Meanwhile, I quietly secured my own assets, personal accounts, retirement funds, the intellectual property from my consulting work, built financial walls she didn't know existed. Credit was trickier. Our joint cards had to remain active to avoid suspicion, but I could limit her access. Reduced spending limits, fraud alerts on unusual purchases, notification systems that would tell me exactly what she was buying and where. The house proved most complex. Legally, she owned half of everything. But the mortgage was in my name. The insurance policies listed me as primary beneficiary, and the security system answered only to my commands. If she wanted to fight for it, she'd have to do so from the outside looking in. All that remained was emotional withdrawal. I stopped initiating conversations, stopped asking about her day, stopped pretending I cared about her fictional work projects. Became the distant, neglectful husband she was already describing to Miles. "You've been quiet lately," she observed one evening. "Just tired," I said. "From what?" "You barely leave the house." I shrugged and returned to my book. Let her frustration build. Let her think I was the problem. The more I withdrew, the more defensive she became. Started picking fights over trivial things. Dishes, laundry, the temperature of the house. Accused me of being passive-aggressive, emotionally unavailable, impossible to live with. Perfect. Every accusation was another piece of evidence. Every fight was another step toward the explosion I needed. She began staying out later, coming home after I was already in bed, or pretending to be. I'd listen to her moving through the house, making calls in the kitchen, probably complaining to Miles about how miserable I was making her life. "He's impossible," she told him during one late-night conversation. "I can't do anything right. He just sits there judging me." "Maybe it's time," Miles suggested. "Cut the cord. File for divorce." "I know. It's complicated." "It doesn't have to be. You tell him you're leaving. He accepts it like he accepts everything else. Clean break." "What if he fights me on the money?" "He won't. Danny doesn't fight. He's a victim, not a fighter." They were so confident, so certain they understood me, so completely unprepared for what was coming. I needed her to believe she was in control, that leaving me was her idea, her decision, her moment of triumph. That's the only way control becomes a weapon. Thursday was coming. I could feel it building like a storm front. Jessie walked through the front door at 6:47 p.m., her face set with the determination of someone who'd finally worked up the courage to amputate a limb. She'd been building toward this moment for weeks, psyching herself up with Miles, probably rehearsing her speech in the mirror. I was waiting in the living room, reading. The same book I'd been pretending to read for months while she destroyed our marriage. The security system hummed quietly overhead, every sensor armed, every camera recording. "We need to talk," she announced, setting down her purse with deliberate finality. I closed the book and gave her my attention. "You look like you have something important to say." She sat across from me, back straight, hands folded. The pose of someone delivering bad news to a subordinate. "This isn't working, Daniel. United States. This marriage. We've grown apart, and I think it's time we both admitted it." I nodded slowly, as if processing this revelation. "Okay." "Okay?" She'd expected resistance, argument, pleading. My calm agreement threw off her rhythm. "I mean, what did you expect me to say? That I'd fight you on this?" No, but you've been planning this for months, Jess. The late nights, the business trips, the way you flinch when I touch you. Did you think I wouldn't notice?" Her composure cracked slightly. "I wasn't planning anything. This is about us growing apart naturally." "Right. Growing apart." I leaned forward. "Like how you grew apart naturally into Miles Carter's bed?" The color drained from her face. "What are you talking about?" "Chicago, 3 weeks ago, the Marriott downtown, room 847. Should I go on?" She stood abruptly, pacing to the window. "You're being paranoid. Miles is my boss. We have legitimate business." "Stop." My voice cut through her excuses like a blade. "Just stop. I know about the hotels, the messages, the plans to move our money before you filed for divorce. I know everything." She spun around, eyes flashing. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been paying attention, something you stopped doing months ago." "You have no right." "I have every right. You're my wife. Or were you planning to mention the divorce before or after you emptied our accounts?" Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. The script she'd prepared, the victim narrative she'd constructed, all of it crumbling in real time. "You're too late anyway," I continued, my voice eerily calm. "I'm leaving you. I've been planning this for months." "You're lying." "Am I? Check the accounts tomorrow. Check the credit cards. Check the mortgage. You'll find I've been very thorough." "You can't do this to me!" Her voice rose to a shriek. "You can't just— What? Leave you? Protect my assets? Refuse to be your victim?" I stood, matching her anger with ice-cold precision. "You thought I'd just roll over and let you rob me blind while you your boss?" She slapped me. Hard. The crack echoed through the room like a gunshot. "You bastard!" she hissed. "You pathetic, weak—" She swung again. This time I caught her wrist. "Let go of me!" She twisted against my grip, nails clawing at my face. I released her and stepped back, blood trickling from the scratches. She was completely unhinged now, all pretense of control gone. "You're nothing!" she screamed. "A boring, pathetic man who can't even satisfy his own wife. No wonder I had to find someone else." She lunged at me again, fists flying. I raised my arms defensively, letting her land a few blows before reaching for the panic button mounted behind the lamp. The alarm shrieked through the house as police dispatch received the automated signal. Jessie was still screaming, still swinging, completely oblivious to what she'd just triggered. "Shut up!" she shouted over the alarm. "Turn that thing off!" "I can't," I said calmly. "It's already connected to 911. The realization hit her like cold water. She looked around wildly, at the cameras recording everything, at the scratches on my face, at the evidence of her complete meltdown surrounding us like broken glass. "You planned this," she whispered. "I planned for this," I corrected. "There's a difference." The police arrived in under 4 minutes. 2 officers, both built like football players, both taking in the scene with practiced eyes. Disheveled woman, calm man with visible injuries, security system still wailing its electronic testimony. "Sir, are you all right?" the older officer asked. "I'll be fine," I said. "My wife became violent during our conversation. Everything's recorded." Jessie tried to explain, tried to paint herself as the victim, but her appearance worked against her. Wild hair, mascara streaked down her cheeks, knuckles scraped from hitting me. She looked exactly like what she was, an abuser caught in the act. "Ma'am, you need to calm down," the younger officer said. "I am calm. He's lying. He trapped me." "Ma'am, please put your hands behind your back." "No, you don't understand. He's been planning this. He's been—" She shoved the officer, hard enough to make him stumble. The taser dropped her like a stone. They cuffed her while she was still twitching, read her rights while she sobbed into the carpet. Domestic violence, assault on a police officer, resisting arrest. A trifecta of charges that would follow her for years. "Do you want to press charges?" the older officer asked. "Yes," I said without hesitation. "All of them." They loaded her into the patrol car while neighbors gathered on their porches, phones out, recording everything. By tomorrow, the footage would be all over social media. Jessie Carter, wait, she'd probably taken his name already in her mind. The successful VP dragged away in handcuffs for beating her husband. The narrative had flipped completely. I was no longer the weak man who couldn't satisfy his wife. I was the victim of domestic abuse, the quiet husband who'd finally stood up to his violent spouse. And Jessie? She was exactly what she'd always been, a narcissist who couldn't handle losing control. The HR department at Meridian Capital received an anonymous email Sunday morning. Nothing illegal about it, just time-stamped photos of Jessie and Miles in various states of unprofessional conduct, coupled with audio recordings of them discussing company business in bed. The compliance department had no choice but to investigate. Miles tried to distance himself immediately, claimed the relationship was casual, that Jessie had pursued him, that he'd ended it weeks ago. Threw her under the bus so fast you could hear the tires screaming. By Wednesday, Jessie's corporate key card was deactivated. By Friday, her resignation was announced for personal reasons. The tech blogs picked up the story. Rising female executives fall from grace, complete with mugshots from her arrest. Her carefully constructed image as a role model for ambitious women crumbled overnight. The same networking groups that had celebrated her success now treated her like a cautionary tale. Professional contacts stopped returning calls. Headhunters removed her from their databases. Miles Carter's fund performance, meanwhile, continued its spectacular decline. The biotech stock I'd fed him through fake forum posts had cost him nearly $2 million of his investors' money. His job lasted another month before the board suggested he pursue other opportunities. The divorce proceedings moved with surgical precision. Margaret Hastings carved through Jessie's legal team like a scalpel through tissue. Every asset we'd accumulated during our marriage stayed with me. The house, the investments, even her car. Everything she thought she'd been positioning to steal. "This is insane," she told her lawyer during one recorded conversation. "He can't take everything." "He's not taking it," her attorney explained patiently. "You abandoned it when you committed adultery and assault. Illinois doesn't look kindly on violent cheaters." She tried calling me. Dozens of times. Left voicemails that progressed from angry to desperate to broken. I listened to the first few, then stopped. There was nothing left to say. Her parents reached out trying to mediate. "She made mistakes," her mother said, "but she's still family." "She stopped being family when she started planning to rob me," I replied. "You can have her back now." The final papers were signed on a Tuesday morning in December. Jesse didn't attend, couldn't afford the lawyer anymore. I walked out of the courthouse a free man, financially intact, reputation spotless. That evening my phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code. Jesse, calling from whatever hole she'd crawled into. I let it go to voicemail. Later, lying in my empty house, my house now, I played the message. Her voice was different, smaller, uncertain. "Danny, it's me. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I needed to say it. I never meant for things to go this far. I don't know what I thought. I was selfish and stupid, and I hurt you in ways I can't even understand. I lost everything. My job, my friends, my family. Miles won't even take my calls. I know you think I deserve this, and maybe I do, but I want you to know that I never stopped loving you. Even when I was with him, even when I was planning what I was planning. I know that sounds impossible, but it's true. I hope someday you can forgive me. Not for me, but for you. Because holding on to anger will poison you the way holding on to lies poisoned me. I'm sorry, Danny. I'm so sorry." I deleted the message without finishing it. They say silence is weakness, that real men fight back with fists and fury, with screaming matches and dramatic confrontations. They're wrong. Silence, properly deployed, is devastation. It's the space between heartbeats where empires fall. It's the pause before judgment, the moment before consequence arrives like thunder after lightning. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't beg or plead or threaten. I let the numbers speak, and numbers never lie. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.